Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective, those who enjoy journaling, self-reflective practices, those who are study self-image. So when you are a self-leader or being yourself, it is going to always start with that moment of truth, where you are not outsourcing your stability. So you're a 1-year-old, you are attachment, trauma, not educated maybe, but I am. And so with that being said, personal and spiritual growth. I did not realize when I began IHP blog way back when and podcasts that people who can do it are those who are considered boring that's spiritual bypassers and somatic bypassers. I also call them the 4D and 3D collective. So why followers seek validation? Question mark. Well, because one, they don't journal to go deeper, but if you do journal and use mindset to go deeper, you can check out the PayHip bundles. Also, if you are looking for self-leadership reflections and deeper conversations, which they're not, they're looking to sound like they are. But if you're looking for genuine self-leadership conversations, join Substack. There's right now the free updated newsletters and digital publications. I don't know what words you use to talk about Substack. I usually don't talk about all these things, but I'm trying to ensure sooner than later that you know where you can go so that you can build more of that which is called your journal prompts and your be yourself practices and actually resonate, but not because I'm saying you're right or wrong. That is because you know the difference. And I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so with that, by being a mystic, that doesn't make me more special or more intuitive or less or any of that other stuff, but definitely I can say that there are those who call me pseudoscience because of it. And I'm still maturing myself as well. So just know we all grow, all of us. The experts in their field don't actually think they know everything. That's a number one sign. If you're working with anyone who's emotionally immature in their leadership or not position and they think they're right about everything, leave it alone. You really don't want to mess with their adaptive child part behavior. You're not talking to the grown human being. Their prefrontal is nowhere to be found. They have orphaned parts. And they're caught in their web of lies, which, by the way, is like the Lord of the Rings. They continue to follow it until they are, like Dorian Gray, withering away. That's because they don't have an empowered masculine father, empowered feminine mother, and they're not their own star baby, so they don't know how special they are. And so with their mask and their lies and the fear-based leaders who they continue to tell themselves that they're special, like shamans who say, don't go to therapy, come to me. No, I'll save you 10 years. You won't save anyone from anything because they actively need to welcome the human stuff and so they can integrate and become the healthy version. So yeah, the other thing about leaders is we don't like to make up bullshit. Although it may sound to the left brainer, the person who has insecurities, that we're lying, but that's because they think we're hypocrites. I'm talking from my subjective experience, but also because one, as a channeler, downloader, and one who knows of all knowledge, very important, have an empowered divine masculine, empowered divine feminine of my own, and I have books that show exactly what the left and the right are. So it's really fun when you're embodying intelligence. We talked about that. You don't hide your child away. So self-leaders, welcome aboard. We're fun. We're not seeking because we're unsure. We actively seek because we're curious. And due to our actual thread, the insula being activated, we're connected. So we're not seeking for groupies. We really don't follow each other around. We are self-agents who like to be with those who are lovers. So our nectar, our sweet, sweet honey, yeah, it is not fantasy stages. And so when I got attachment trauma educated, what I can tell you about soulmates, twin flames, the oversoul, all of that which people want to talk about, so energy vampires, monsters, someone trying to keep you down, like all these stories of good people and bad people. No, well, I already knew that because I was raised by good Christian Catholic catechists, and I'm a steady self-image of Maria. So they taught me really easy what Jesus said, God, and I was like, yeah. And then I also was downloading already, and I didn't know that. So validation, I don't validate people's story about the evil thing. I just say, look, neuroscientists prove God's perfection, and everyone can achieve it, but the masked ones pretend that they are the rightful owners of words, and they really don't like that we like to use different words. Bring it all together. So the left and the right work together because the right accepts A, B, C, D, F, G. So science and spirituality are never actually irritating to hear in the same sentence. All the stories are not irritating to hear, and nothing is disproving the other. So my left doesn't say that's fake because it's being brought together. It's not fake. Some of pieces of information from our ancestors are still true, others are not. And so like Hippocrates told his ancestors at the time, when we find out what the epilepsy is, you'll stop calling it the wrath of the gods. Neuroscience proves, thank you Patrick McNamara, and continues to do so. They're building more data, decentralizing and the self and religious experiences. So while the ones who feel threatened by science explaining things don't seem to understand why insecurity is so obvious to those of us who are not seeking for validation, it's obvious that you can't disprove God, but you can explain how God's perfection, all of his children are perfect, and that which used to be a story for the ancestors who didn't know any better, there's not a monster. No, there's healing that can take place for those who know the kingdom of God resides within them, and when they get the left brain of theirs to speak and the right to laugh, they will be happy inside their own embodied brain. So they own their brain, their mind, their self, and therefore they are now knowledgeable in a way of growing intelligence, and good resilience. And so this is where you don't talk sense into those who do bad resilience. No. Dr. Amy Pegan presents people who go to therapy will refuse treatment. I just found out people that go to therapy have ways that they boycott their own therapy. But that's the part of where the good therapists know how to explain to them, your embodied brain protects you. So it's just doing that which it feels automatically is your safety. Don't worry, we'll get through it. Let's figure it out. So I'm not a therapist, but I learn from them. So nobody gives up on themselves. That's where the ones who want, obviously, to be their selves. The ones with an unsteady self-image who want to validate each other. So let's get to our topic. Why followers seek validation. Any of you teenagers at one point in your journey? Okay. I'm going to tell you a story in a minute or more, but I want to find my notes so I can stay on track, because I like to try and let you all know the self-reflective aspects that come with every year are awesome. And so while we're acknowledging we have followers who are emotionally charged, they will continue to use words like we all do, but they will continue to show their 5 hands. We get to continue to be empowered by maintaining steadiness. And so with your good resilience, you're not tired of learning how to become the best version of yourself. And you're not doing it to make anyone proud, by the way. So there's a number of those who are still living out their insecurities. And when they seek for groupies to say they're right, the masses of emotionally immature people, they're obvious to the emotionally mature ones in leadership position and not. They're not only obvious, but they're also a known hand. Unfortunately, those who carry with them survivorship bias due to their obliviousness to their own selves don't realize that they're the ones who don't know how to sit with an active charge, understand what their embodied brain is doing, honing in on that which is dangerous physically. Stupidity is dangerous physically for our species, FYI. So mine actively picks and notices all of 3D, 4D. That's why Buddha and I have a thing, because I make fun of him, but he'll make fun of me to set me on track, and I know how to follow that which is the suggestion. Why? Because I'm aware of Maria, and so I know my brain will be good to me, and it will help me to know where the ones who I need not be around are. But not because they represent a physical threat, just because we won't get along and I won't learn anything particularly impressive. But also, I digress. I'm trying to have you laugh a little. Laugh. No, you don't have to laugh. But what do we do with our lovely journal prompts? How am I, as I increase flexibility and soften that which is the grasp, right? I'm changing it up a bit, but you work with your edge, you work with your emotional charge. Your inner world is a playground because you don't have anything nasty to say when you're getting upset. And you also don't have I'm going to validate my own charges or biases. You don't validate your affective realism. You don't ask for an invitation to say this or that. You're simply yourself because you're like, okay, I have emotions that are ruling me every day and sensations, but I'm also a person who's aware of it. So self-leaders don't look for validation. They're always regulating under activation, and when they're not and someone points it out or something, you say thank you so much. And even if it's not true, you still look a minute and say, wait a minute, you know what, I could bring in more clarity and wisdom. Thank you. That's amazing, because my mind just immediately was like, shut, there you go, and you expand more. So because you have a empowered ego here and self, you don't think because someone interrupts me it's personal, or because someone uses a name, because here's where the people who they don't like the mystics that are Akashic record readers, Reiki masters, tarot card readers. They don't like that we know neuroscience actively. Apparently they don't know about George Lamette, the guy who was a priest, Catholic priest, who's like, hey, here's Big Bang Theory, basically, in different words. But so we're okay with the ones who reject us. I don't think they're really okay with us, but that is why do those who are not self-leaders look to validate? What do fear-based leaders create? They create followers because they were dysregulated like their parents and so forth and so on. And so survivorship biased people create the same arrogant, ignorant, survivorship biased people who follow each other around. And that's why I call them Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, because they're all doing the same thing that masked people do. And like my facade friend, they fake it. They don't ever make it over the hump. They just validate each other. We have flat earthers, not because I'm creative and know that science and spirituality can come together. And I also know what objective truths are and how knowledge is built. And I also know what humility is and how those experts are the ones who bring in everything. And the smart ones are even more brilliant and amazing because they awe and wander us as they achieve the consilience approach. But furthermore, they know that everything that is knowledge is being brought in because they don't get defensive. So they're not cut off from their body. They're not actually trying to prove themselves right. They're not unsure of what they're seeking. They're curious. Also, they want to help bigger picture. This is what happens when you have the handful. Doesn't need a lot of, all you need is a handful of those who are emotionally intelligent. And as they continue to care about what they do best, as they all will have had a calling, their life's purpose, they don't need the religious stuff, the spirituality stuff, the science stuff. Those subject matters support it, as we discussed. It don't give you your purpose or your meaning. You have human secondary consciousness. It's with your steady self-image that you say, I wake up, thank goodness I have loved ones I want to spend life with. And I hope to make a difference in the world. So we leave a legacy behind. We are future humans because the children will learn what true leadership looks like and what fake leadership looks like. And they'll continue to use that which is called intellect and intelligence and the free will that we always will have had, although some think we don't have it. But even without it, what I know is we have the determined ones with these smarts, and then we have the other ones. So really, even without free will, I'll tell you, I came into life with luck. I have a steady self-image, and I can't tell you that I ever actually looked outside of me for help, because even when I have panic attacks, I can self-regulate. And I actively do know of other people who are self-regulating with the whole self, and they have fun with personal and spiritual growth. And so the people that are saying, I want to connect, no, they follow each other around because they want validation. And so you'll notice the difference, because those who validate each other, and the follower state is what you can call it if you want, emotionally immature leadership, they actively tend to, not only do they end up coming together because they're still because their dysregulation caused to that which they're familiar with. And so they look for people who agree with them. They look for people who soothe them. Then they look for people who confirm their own perspective. because they're also, like the people that they'll fall and put on pedestals, be so oblivious to that which is called building more knowledge, and not realizing how once you think you're right about everything because you learned a bazillion shit about it, you might still not know enough to know you're wrong. And those who are smart will know this, which is why they don't stop learning. And they don't go against their colleagues either. They're all happy to mingle and tingle, even with the ones who are not humble and who get arrogant, and that they're used to it. Any one of us knows what arrogance looks like. And then any one of us knows what empowered people look like. And the timbre is different. So it's really fun. Emotionally mature people, welcome aboard. Pay hip if you like journaling and mindset practices. Plenty of bundles there. And again, Substack for those of you who do enjoy regular updates and want in the future potentially to join us for the paid subscriber as well. So you're looking for more tools for your toolkit on living intentionally. And that's with not, we don't complain about resilience, by the way, because it's not overwhelming. So some people are not yet there. And I get it because I've been explained it, but you don't get there by saying, I'm that's not how you're not going to get there. You actively, with that, validated the feeling. Now, it's not that you don't want it, you want it to come out, but you want to recognize in the moment, oh wow, did I just get irritated with life? Okay, I have one of two options. Neuroplasticity, using the bright sides, the imagination, my potential to create habits for myself. So if I validate myself, I don't do anything with that window tolerance, which is like a rubber band. And no, the rubber band can't break, because somebody who would want to say that your embodied brain is a rubber band that can break doesn't know how integration works and how elasticity works. Also doesn't know how neurobiology works. And they apparently don't know how neuroscientists explain we're all able to have the flow state, which is amazing, might I add. So besides being a mystic and a spiritual one and channeling, downloading, and just being a clear channel for anything that wants to come through, and no, I'm not afraid of any of low frequency, because low frequency comes from the minds of the people who still live not only with their brains in active horror. I will not even go there, but I understand why our ancestors had the books they had, as I know what year it was. So when someone doesn't accept the timeline and the time doesn't exist, you can do whatever you want with that. I'm grounded in reality trying to explain a timeline. So neuroscience explains to me how our embodied brain is today. We didn't have all the information. Now everybody's knowledgeable with these words. We still have fakos out there using emotional intelligence who have none because they're actively refuting to notice that the words you use are not what I'm going to see that is telling me you have a steady self-image. It's your consistent energetic output that will tell me if you're able to be living intentionally and if you're enjoying it. And if you are, you're not going to call secure attachment or the enlightenment soul age group boring. You're going to be all blissed out and more, and you're going to say it's more than just spiritual or mystic lingo. This is amazing. I don't need to invite you to do more. I tell you it's exciting to do more. And like me, you also notice when your edge is not growing, which is why, okay, it's time for our next round of expansion. And that's the part of what our 5D collective knows. So self-leaders, we don't collapse under activation is what I'm trying to get to. We stay steady. And with that steadiness, it's not pretending. It's because you're capable with your nervous system and the embodied brain to regulate. And so you grow because you want to. And you honor yourself. You honor human beings overall. And the ones who don't want that which they can have is none of our business because they have their journey to do. So the human elements is what I bring to spiritual and spirituality elements, and it all unites to say, you be you and I be me. And as God shares with me, everyone has free will. And as Jesus shares, everyone has the kingdom of God within them. But if they don't achieve that which I'm going to tell you scientists know of as restorative embodiment and good resilience, well, they won't know what I'm talking to you about. And no matter how many different ways I can present to you what spiritual bypassers and somatic bypassers are, if you're going to be with that group, you're going to want those who validate your feelings and your perspectives. And you're going to justify that which is effective realism, which also involves your biases, besides the feeling so strong that they're a fact. So the question will be, for those who are self-leaders, can I stay grounded when I'm triggered? Can I notice when I'm triggered? Can I continue to be aware of my edge and my charge? Yes. Those who instead are validating, they care about who agrees with me, who is confirming what my hypotheses and suggestion and what. So when someone comes out with a thought, this is the part of where there's many different ways that I have noticed people validate themselves. through their stories. So your gut can be off. My gut can be off because my brain will say, I want to do diet, I want to do diet. And I do the diet because I'm smart enough to know when I started it that I wanted it for a reason. And today I can tell you the biology of a securely attached, self-regulating person. Immediately within the first 3 days, I was completely absent of all of the things I was in, the lightheadedness and things that when I see the different groups of people who have different versions and different ideas of why lightheadedness comes in, for example, I'm just going to tell you that my nutritionist, when she explained to me what's happening to your nervous system when you're not giving it food in this way, and these portion of protein, that, oh wow, I just send my body in, okay, I got it. It's like a clock, and me not using the clock destabilizes it. And those who are common sense will say, well, we told you. I'm like, yeah, okay, but you didn't explain it to me. Now my left has an explanation and my right understands it. And it's, wow, there's a lot of people that might just be giving some information, but that's the part of where they think they're right and they're not because they didn't notice that they're missing a bunch of other information. And their specialization, so I'm going to pause again because now I'm digressing in a different topic and I want to do that. I want to close us out as we look at, so followers validate each other. The entirety of groups of people who have one focus, one interest, and they will continue to do it that way, will do it that way. I noticed that immediately with the securely attached, self-regulating nervous system, which anyone who is informed of how food helps you and regularity helps you will talk to you with a holistic perspective. So I'm saying spiritual and personal growth, and your body is doing the self-regulating thing, okay? So your child parts are good. You don't need to learn self-regulation. Now, our body does heal also, by the way. So when one trauma charge moves, the rest move. Peter Levine, I don't know if you know him, but as he points out, when you can contain sensations, images, behavior, affects and meanings, and that means you don't get disconnected and you're actively aware, that's how you can continue to uncharge. And that's why it's personal and spiritual growth for those of you who understand. But your spirit really and soul is one frequency, so I don't even need to bring that one in. And if you want to talk to me about past lives and past life regression, I know all about it. I'm a Akashic record reader. So today, I wanted to talk to you about the difference between followers and self-leaders and how it shows up when you're emotionally activated, because the point is, one, I bring to those who want to personally grow conversations and topics. Two, that which is emotionally immature people in leadership positions is our theme, and so the validation loops that people will give each other, it's beyond a bejesus of hilariousness, but they're not here and talking about the topics that we talk about because they want to achieve growth. It's just because we talk about them in the world, and now they're trending topics above all. So people who think they're growing but they're actually seeking validation are like the flat earthers who come together and will reject Neil deGrasse who explains them something. At the same time, we want experts to have the humility to treat all people with respect and to also remember why curiosity and questioning is important. Now, the part about when people are choosing to unlearn because they got disappointed by noticing that there are certain ways that our textbooks will have been written and so on and so forth. I've heard a lot of different explanations. I have a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy. I found out just as much as anyone else that the way that my books are written, the way that I'm learning things is not all inclusive. I'm not going to unlearn every single bit of the subject matters because I got books that were written by the people who decided to give me their subjective perspective and integrated words that created adjectives in ways that I'm supposed to be able to read something. And actually, excuse me, I'm going to pause. We did an entire year, if I remember correctly, with the podcast when they were audio alone on how to sift through that which is called people giving you their subjective stuff with the data points. And so anybody who is intellectually savvy will already know what I just said, and they will not be unlearning. Those who want to unlearn sound like disgruntled teenagers who are in there, in fact, modulated. Well, I'm going to bring it to you, which reminds me of when I was a teenager, and I found out that I was doing the casting of a stone, and I said, sorry, God, because I was raised good Christian Catholic catechist, so I was like, I didn't mean to cast a stone, I'm not you, I know that, and the mystics who think that they're right to cast stones is, so they forget their place, and they forget their place because they're now spiritual bypassers who are bypassing healing their gut with the anger, and their sadness with their heart, and their fear with their embodied brain, but they care not to notice that they're somatic bypassers, which is also why they're spiritual bypassers. And they remind me of the fight flight. That's that 16-year-old, but the teenage version of any one of us. What did I do when I was a kid and I find out, oh, I'm so sorry, I was casting a stone, I won't do it ever again. Anarchy. And people who I've told that to are like, oh, no, humans, they're so scary. I'm like, one, I'm not afraid of humans. There's actively two groups of people. And my brain obviously spots the ones that I know are a threat. But I'm smart enough to know that they're not the only ones out there. So let me give you an example. I started noticing as a teenager that those who said we are all individuals, but they were actually following each other around, they didn't connect because they were unique. They followed each other around. And while at your age of 11, 12, 13, your brain is going through a pruning process, as Dr. Daniel Siegel explained, and you're going to choose your next style of parenting crew. This is the moment of truth. If you have a steady self-image, you will have maintained yourself, use your name. I did. You will have learned, like I did, from the peer pressure stuff. And then you will not look at people and say, they're all evil. No, they're all cowards, liars. They're all small-minded. I got booed for asking for homework on a Friday evening in college. It didn't get any better. Also, this is one of the stories, and then we'll close on out. I'll never forget when someone wanted me to help them cheat. I was like, no, I love you. That's why you need to help me. No, I love you. So if I help you cheat, I don't love you, because you'll fail by yourself if you don't learn the information. So no, I'm not going to help you cheat. I'm going to help you learn. No, I don't want you to. No, I'm not. Well, that's your option. I can help you learn or not, and you get to choose. So when someone is serious about helping people, you don't give them shortcuts, because one, there's no shortcuts. Two, if I love you, I won't validate that which is the feeling that you have. I will be able to validate it in the sense of we're subjectively human and we bring with each other feelings, so I'll acknowledge it. But I'm not going to bullshit you with information because you want me to do so. Now, I'm going to pause with that, because here's where, let's get some questions before we go. When you see that people don't want that as you get older, this is what I got to see as I got to college, and I get looked at weird by people who like, oh, you live with your mom? Oh, you live with family? Oh, yeah, why? What? Oh, you're independent. Because what? You got a car key? Oh, look, well, how much do you drink? Are you going anywhere? What do you do? Drugs? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you escape reality by any chance? So when I think of people who want to look at me weird, I'm maintaining respect out of the fact that, one, I really don't want to waste any time, but also I'm 4'9", I don't want to get punched in the face, and three, you can't actually make a difference in anybody's life that way anyways. Because the moment they will not have noticed that their maladaptive patterns of behavior are maladaptive, because the drinking and the fucking and the inner and outer critic and the whole survivorship bias and fantasy stages and escaping anything shows me today in 2026 that you don't know what you're doing. And on Reddit, a motivation and mindset group which says, how can I healthily escape reality but not drugs or alcohol? That's not health. There's no healthy there. There's your nervous system is overwhelmed. You want to escape. You want to get good therapist, good support system if you don't have one. If you don't have one, good therapist. Work with yourself. Get a steady self-image. Believe me, once you get that, then, like Patrick Tian points out, anti-real, you'll be that functional adult, and in your prefrontal cortex you go, and you'll be uncomfortable with anyone who has not healthy boundaries. But you'll learn, how Michael Yapko points out, to have a difficult and challenging conversation and not to be like, I'm healing, because that ain't a healer. And how dare you say that to some poor human being out there? Because all you had to say was, I'm not a therapist. I'm so sorry. Think what you're wanting is a therapist. Guess what happens when you tell people who love you and you love them, look, you just described to me clinical dissociation. I can do all of the spiritual toolkit and the personal growth stuff that we've talked about, but I love you, and so I'm going to say we want a good therapist. The MDR child parts work in somatics, so you can begin to get familiar and ground and heal things that are the experts can do the best of the best, and then together we continue in other ways. But you do the healthy and safe And really, again, the embodied brain is so amazing, as lovely Dr. Daniel Siegel informed me of how integration works. And so those who seek validation want you to agree with them. They want to avoid discomfort. They want to stay in loops. Yes. In fact, I didn't get contacted. My friend didn't like what I had to say, and they just want to do all of that, which is the tarot for guidance, the Akashic record readings to find out their past lives, and the Reiki, because, it's all trending now. And so if they ask me to do with them something, I will still reiterate, look, as I told you, we want a good therapist on call so that we can try to work with them. And that's how it works. You don't actually negotiate with those who don't have their health in the forefront. That's how professionals do it, who care about what they do. And so when someone says life coach, mentor, any of that which is not therapist, we know the difference, which is why when I meet those who are in the same profession that I am and they take it seriously, they will also know how to, they fire clients. I just let them know ahead of time, this is not going to go well if we don't have also these criteria. It's okay. You don't have to believe me because I'm not the scientist. I'm the pseudoscientist, and I do learn though. So 2, self-leaders regulate under activation, which is why we continue to support those who want to do it the right way, because that's the amazing journey. So you don't go and tell someone that they are doing it wrong. There's your martyrs, blamers, and superiors. You simply understand some will become their embodied self-leaders, others will not. So we don't collapse when we're triggered. We learn how to spot that. We stay present with discomfort, panic attacks, plenty of practice. Not saying it's awesome, no. You just know how to work with it. And so people who are looking to work with that which are charges, they do that, and they slowly, it gets easier and easier, and eventually you will basically depend. Everybody has a different story. We use activation, so moments where we're under pressure, under activation, to grow, not to validate ourselves and or to call out anyone. So while those who say, but they're not doing it, yeah, like we talked about, don't expect an apology from someone who maintains their emotional immaturity, like my facade friend, as they don't have a entire 0 8-year-old who's healed yet. So I don't really have the grown-up. I got a groupie, like the groupies that I didn't look at and say, let me follow you. I looked at and said, oh, wow, a lot of cowards out there. See, you don't know how to make it into tomorrow. So when someone has 5 hands, their personality patterns match that which is an inconsistency, you'll notice, because we don't waver. Our energetic sphere consistently maintains eustress, because under activation you notice. So you'll notice where you're tightening, you'll notice where you are relaxed, you'll notice, let me pause the train, let me train the pause, excuse me. I invert my words. I get excited, right? I'm getting excited, I'm getting accelerated. So I'm learning how to pause when we have episodes as well. And so if someone always agrees with you, that's not something that you would want unless, yeah, so real connection is not about agreement. Connection allows difference to be. Growth allows that which is everything to come up. And when we have friction, we know that that's our opportunity to choose. So if somebody else within friction, they get charged, begins to stay that way, that's the moment of truth, as psychology Buddhists have said. And I learned this from Chris Willard. If you're not going to add to the context, if nothing's going to change in that moment for the better, you leave it alone. Some people will consider not leaving it alone because they think of it as validating. So everybody will choose based on that which they feel compelled to do. But to me, if someone's bringing to me simply their own subjective opinion with their own 5 books, 10, 20, whatever it is, they can continue bringing it to me. I can say I disagree, I have different information. I don't have to create an argumentation to go against what they're telling me. Now, if someone with their manners begins to get agitated, well, that's a whole, no physical threat, none, meaning, you don't put up with that. That's completely something you can stand up for. Now, in my case, I'm 4'9", and I have had a situation where I told you all about it. And so the point is, if someone gets rowdy, what I'm going to more likely than not do is get up and leave, because I have no physical capacity, if I say, hey, could you calm it down, please, to handle the person if they take that the wrong way. Furthermore, when you understand what a timber is, and that those who are not healed, and so with DID, for example, people can be triggered, and they could enter one of their states of self that gets triggered by a word or by a tone. And here's where affective realism affects everyone. So when you're informed and you understand this is not about a competition, those who will never apologize, those who will maintain their clownish attitude, there's answers to why. And it's not a story of evil or a monster. And FYI, my good Christian Catholic catechist raised me with God. And I know we're all children of God. And Jesus confirms the kingdom of God is within you. And neuroscientists confirm. So when people want to tell me that someone who is not behaving well is a monster, I say, no, they're not. And there's a bunch of emotionally immature people in this moment being praised and flaunted around and all of it. And they're using those very stories. And I'm just thinking the maladaptive patterns of behavior are obvious to any person who is emotionally solid and mentally solid and has the information of how we're made and is a lived experience of an embodied brain that says, yeah, okay, we know there's a lot of smart people out there, so they will know what we know, and we won't be pointing it out in a way of making it so obvious, because that's not how this works, because that's also not necessary. Those who are intelligent will understand that those who are validating each other are doing so based on their likes and their dislikes. And when they say it's good, it's what they like. When they say it's bad or evil, what they don't like. When they bring to us ancient stories, survivorship bias, and ancient history, yeah, we know what they're doing. They're bringing to us the past. They obviously don't know that complex systems and the present don't function based on the past, and that by you assuming the past will repeat itself also tells me you have a loop that is going in a wheelhouse, and mine doesn't. Mine says, okay, thank you, that's a possibility, that's a possibility, okay, we have all the potentials, bring it over here. Awesome. Now we have the ones who are going to spot where we can support to fix. So intelligent ones don't think we can't fix. No, we can. We'll find what's broken. We'll figure out a way to be able to fix it, and nobody will know any different, because that's the part of where some people will not know any different. Now here are the questions. And that's FYI. We all have subjective reality. So everyone will interpret that, which is the events that take place in general. Humanly speaking, the ego. Every person has a left brain. So we all have stories. Those who are intelligent don't use a story. We have piece of information, more piece of information, more piece of information. Then we have our own experiences. In my case, bring in the mystic spiritual stuff. And then we have that which is called science over here. And with that, we all can move into tomorrow. And so write down, if you like to do journaling and reflection, here you go. So if you want to test it out, you'll know you're in a follower state when disagreement feels threatening. Okay, so if you're looking to be a self-leader, if you're looking to be it not because you want to, okay, you'll just notice if you're a person who is looking to be validated. And the reality is it's very easy to get out of it because you thrive in growth. So you don't actually think of staying emotionally charged and immature as necessary. You feel like, okay, I can become a grown-up with it. I don't have to stay the charge. The charge doesn't make me right or wrong. The charge doesn't win an argument. The charge doesn't change what I see out there. It doesn't actually change anything. The charge is a charge because it's mine, and then I can share it with those who also see it, and then we, with the intelligence and the humble and the discerning and all of the rest, know that humanity is intelligent enough to know how to work on a globe that's round, where we need air, water, and food. Healthy fear. Those are the intelligent ones. So the questions. Do I feel uneasy when someone disagrees with me? And I'm going to say you want to add, do I feel uneasy when my loved ones, my partner, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father disagree with me, my whoever? Because that might change. So you want to also give yourself the opportunity to grow within all of those dynamics, because we have at the very bare minimum those 5 alloparenting, and that's your immediate 0-8-year-old. But as a person who grows, you're going to be able to easily spot that. And with those who are now, so once you're from that 11 and beyond, it's going to be easier than when it was your first 8 years of life. That's the implicit memory. My 3-year-old comes up plenty of times. Number 2, do I look for people to calm me, or do I regulate myself? But also to know, as a person, my 0 1-year-old wants another person to calm me, as it actively doesn't want to get one eaten by the bear, but it seeks to be supported because that's what actively will get my social engagement system, my ventral vagal state. So I know a lot of people are afraid that AI replaces jobs and stuff like that, or that AI is being used by people to support them with counseling. And if someone is a smart person with the attachment trauma education, the one thing any machine can't do is give you a human hug. And they don't actively have the embodied brain you have. So while you can get heard and you can get support by voice, your body will not get anything. The only people who won't notice the difference are the same ones who are just looking for a validative loop. So they're not seeking to actually grow. They're just seeking to get told they're right, which means they are not in any way, shape, or form a steady self-image yet. And so they're not moving into that which is leadership. So no, they're not part of the collective of those who know humanity can't be threatened by that which is not part of our species, not because it's different in a way of not being welcome. No, it actually supports all of the intelligent ones well. The ones who are afraid because of the ones who use it the wrong way, we know who they are. And they continue to use those past experiences to say that that's what could happen again. Others use it the smart way by saying, okay, how do we want to ensure this doesn't happen again? What are our strategies? And effectively, as we know what ego does when it's not smart, delusional, let's see, how do we work with this stuff? Because the smart, brilliant ones know exactly how to use two sides of brain. And they're not threatened by those who don't use two sides, by the way. So when I hear people feeling threatened by that which is ignorance, I say, no, while we can be afraid of that which is ignorance, yeah, but we will not fear it to the point of where we think there's no solution, because again, the bias is our brain being afraid because of what is threatening. Embodied brain protects us. It's not trying to deceive you. It's trying to protect you. And if you're intelligent, you know exactly who you'll be spotting. It will be like I do, the emotionally immature ones who have a bunch of blind spots, but you won't use all your time there. If you're moving into expansion, you're going to begin to notice, and you're going to stay steady as you are activated and know, let me hang out with more intelligent ones. Let me continue to go towards the whole ones. Let's continue. And you build an entire collective of people who are like, okay, yes, we know these probabilities are possibilities, not probabilities. The possibilities are these over here on the negative side of people. On the positive side, let's sit in the middle. And as I was saying, anything that is technological has not a nervous system. So when your 0 1-year-old wants a hug, it will know only a human can give it to me. The ones who think they don't need a human, they're the very same ones who they don't need me or you or journaling or mindset. What they need, first of all, is however long it takes for them to get to their actual self and build a steady self-image. Once they have good resilience, now they know how to do what I'm talking about. And they're not seeking validation. And they don't find it insulting. They find it unnecessary, and they find it actually boring. Am I growing or just being validated? ? And so with that, when I got asked to let me cheat, because if you love me, you're going to let me cheat in high school, whoever it was, I was like, no, if I love you, which I do, I'm not letting you cheat. I'll help you learn. I'll study with you. But cheating is not part of the equation, because actually that would make me a liar. And the people who say, oh no, but you're a liar that you say you love me when you don't want me to get what I want. And so, with that being said, 2 hands, 2 feet. We all have them. The 3-year-old will always be a 3-year-old, but the smart 3-year-old will be a human being who's a grown-up who knows that which is health, as Hippocrates points out. That's wisdom, and as my mother's pointed out, moderation, and whether we like it or not. So in my case, the nutritionist diet was really great to have, and I can tell you, it's amazing when you meet experts who are with the consilience approach, because they bring it all in and they continue learning from their colleagues, and then you see what they bring to their entire field. And I think, for example, of Dr. Daniel Siegel with the embodied brain, interpersonal neurobiology, Stephen Porges with the polyvagal theory and the lens, and Janina Fisher, Pat Ogden, Dr. Daniel Fox, I already said Siegel, but yeah, all that for the mental health community. But then another person came into my mind, and this is someone that I actively don't think I've met personally, but it's within the field of dentistry, teeth. And they are, I forget how to explain it, but they are going down a path that involves more than just one subject matter. And when they're taking patients for teeth, they're doing it from a holistic perspective and not holistic in a way of denying sciences. Okay, so I'm bringing that one in as another example, just because when you have those who care, so Dr. Dana Siegel and this other person, about their subject matter, and they're intelligent, they know, like Neil deGrasse has pointed out, how knowledge is built. And they also are appreciative of all their colleagues. And they're not taking personally their actual arrogant colleagues. And if they're smart, they don't stop learning more. And that's because they continuously understand what it means to say, I know some things, not all things. And with their humility, to be smart enough to not have any fucking blind spots, excuse me for the language, no, which is the whole point of why my edge is you have blind spots the minute you think you know everything and you've done looking into anything. Like you just have a blind spot. Now that you've become a dinosaur, because you'll become a dinosaur eventually, I don't have any need to be around you. I'm going to go hang out around the ones who know how it works. To continue to not have blind spots while knowing we have some blind spots, but it's not the blind spot of I know everything now, so I don't need to keep on looking into it. Humility is what breeds knowledge and expertise and leaders, because that's the whole point. Those who get defensive about anything, as they get older, it's like, okay, you obviously don't know how words work. And no, we all aren't going to get on the same page. So self-leaders, they choose to be with those who are leaders. Validating ones, they choose to be around each other because they are validating each other's feelings. And if they validate their charges, that's where it is. But meantime, welcome aboard. Check out PayHip, check out Substack, subscribe to YouTube, check out TikTok if you want to, and Instagram. And I am also, I think it's called Threads. But in the meantime, it was a pleasure having you here. So we'll be back again soon. Have a good one.